Hi, welcome everybody. I wanted to create this video because I just wanted to start to install Apache Airflow and run it into a Docker container, but I ran into several problems. And in the end, I found this solution. So I found the solution by myself, basically, and I would like to share it with you because right now, until now, or at least in a couple of weeks or a couple of days, the solution for this version is still not available. So I think it's worth it that other developers or other enthusiasts in Apache Airflow will be able to install it as well. So basically what I'm going to do, I want to just run Apache Airflow in a Docker container, which I consider is the easiest way to do this. But yeah, let's start it, right? So this is for basic, for beginners. So let me click on install. And what I'm going to do is I will just follow the instructions here for this particular installation. In this case, I will choose running Airflow in Docker. That's the one. So the first thing that we are going to notice here is that you need to install Docker Community Edition and Docker Compose. If you are non-Linux user, you actually just go into Docker. I just click on this link. And here is specified that Docker Engine is available in the Linux platforms, macOS and Windows through this Docker desktop. So basically, if you install now Docker desktop, you should have already the Docker Engine. But however, in the same way, the Docker Compose is also integrated in the Docker desktop. Here it says, Docker Desktop and Mac and Windows, Docker Compose is included as part of this install. So basically you just need to install this one in your Mac or in your Windows computer, and it's totally okay. It will be done perfectly. So you should be safe on this. Now what we are going to do is, in Docker Hub, something that is Docker Hub, right? Docker Hub. In Docker Hub, there are like tons of images, or it's like the place where you can find tons of images about Airflow and different combinations. Let me just look for them, right? Airflow. These are images that they have been built by someone else, and you are free to use them. If you know how to run them, like just Docker run on this particular image, you can actually just go there and pull them, right? And pull the image if you want from the console, from your terminal, and then it will be available to you, and then you can just run the Docker container, right? However, in this case, what I want to do is I want to follow strictly the official instructions of running Airflow in Docker from the Airflow documentation. I am talking about here version 2.0.1, and today, from the day that the video has been published, there is a critical error in this version because there are some libraries that have changed in the side of Azure, of Microsoft, that just destroy this methodology. The way to run the container here described is actually okay, but it will not be running, right? So the purpose of this video is to help you to install this version 2.0.1, and then you will be able to run it correctly in your computer. So let me go into these steps. So the first thing that we have to do is I just created, let me just try to do this in a bigger way, this command line. Yeah, exactly. So if I go to the desktop, well, I have several things here. Oh, sorry. I have several folders here, but let's create a folder. I have a folder here that is called basically Airflow Docker, right? So let me create a new one. MKDR. This is the folder where you are going to save your Docker things, your Docker files, right? Or you are going to run this container. So I would say Airflow 2, and then I would say, Airflow 2 and Docker. Yes. I think that should make sense, right? So I create this folder, so I can go actually inside this folder, and then it's Airflow 2 Docker. So I am here in this folder that is actually really quite empty, right? So now in this folder, I just do pwd to show the path. Here we have it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the instructions. So we have to download this Docker Compose YAML, and for Mac users, you can just go here, and in the documentation is quite explicit. So we just like fetch this Docker Compose YAML. So what just happens is that it just downloaded the Docker Compose in YAML. So we are actually okay. This YAML contains like all the important features that they are going to be installed. Like this is the, let's say, all the instructions with all the services that are needed, right? Like for example, like the Postgres SQL locally that the Apache Airflow needs, and as well the volumes where the plugins, DAGs, and logs will be like available locally in order to update those things in Apache Airflow. So for instance, if you have a DAG file or a DAG, and then you would like to just make it available in Docker, then you just have to put it into the folder DAGs. In a moment, I'm going to create this folder, so don't worry. You will see, I'm just trying to briefly explain you what is here inside. We have the Postgres SQL, we have the Redis, which is the administrator of the workers. We have, of course, the Airflow web server, which is one of the services we are going to see this interface and interact with Airflow for basic users, which is actually the one that I use, right? I don't consider myself an advanced one. And here we can define the port 8080, or it will be available to you in the localhost 80 port 8080, and then Airflow scheduler, and then, well, here just have like some basic things like the init microservice to initialize the Airflow Flower service with the Celery one, and the volumes. So there is nothing quite special here. Actually, it's just the way that this will be built. If you're more advanced and you would like to have like additional features, this is the place where you have to update the Docker, right? If you would like a particular thing to add in this container. So basically this Docker Compose contains basically the description of these services, these service definitions that I just mentioned, right? And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create these 3 folders here that we need. So the DAGs, the logs, and the plugins, right? So here in the DAG folder, we can put the DAGs file, right? How do we make these things? So it's quite easy. We just do mkdir. So we are going to create these folders, and I will create them inside of this Airflow Docker 2, right? So I'm just going to do here, and we have now the folder DAGs, the folder logs, and the plugins. So we see it now here in a better way, in a more vertical way. So we have the folders that we need, the Docker Compose. And now what here the documentation tells us is that we have to create an environment to initialize. I mean, it's like a file that will initialize, or will have some instructions, these 2 instructions basically, to initialize the Docker container, right? Actually here we don't see it, but if we do like nano.env, because it's the file that was just created here, it would just be a file that has actually 2 lines, right? This is the Airflow UID 501, and this is just a file with these 2 parameters, right? Good. So now what we are going to do is we are going to run the Docker Compose of Airflow init, and this is the one that is going to fail. You will see why. So in this version 1. So as we can see, it's building the entire thing. So we are talking about version 2.0.1, right? The problem with this version is like there is some modification in the Azure libraries. You will see in a moment how it will start to tell me the error, right? Just a moment, we're just waiting here. I will just pause the video, and then I will be at the moment when this will, actually now is almost finishing. Let's leave it here just to, that you see that there is nothing like a black magic here happening or something, right? So you can accelerate the video if you want until the part that actually this works. But I want you to see the entire thing, right? That you feel confident that I am not cheating or or like skipping some steps. Yeah, exactly. So this looks actually moving. Exactly, and here is the part where you start to get the error, right? So this is the problematic error that I was mentioning before. So let me make it just as smaller, and I would just stop it, because what is going to happen is just like so this is the error. The error is that it will say the package not module name azure.storage.blob cannot be found, right? So this module doesn't exist. And this is the module that just Microsoft, as usual, they just updated whatever they want, and they don't notify anyone, and then, yeah, just creates the error. So this documentation is already broken, right? So now what we have to do is we have to fix it. So I was Googling for you this kind of solution, and I found it, and I actually compiled my own solution in order to make it work really quickly. So basically here we have, let me show you something. So here we have the Docker container, right? So what it happens is we have now this Apache Airflow. This is the Docker desktop, by the way. Apache Airflow has been created, right? 2.0.1, and it's like a very small image. And something quite important here as well is that, just before I forget, be sure that in the resources tab, you are increasing the memory. Normally is already 1 or 2. I recommended to maybe increase it to 3 or 4, because Apache Airflow requires quite a lot of memory, right? So in this case, I am just upgraded to 5 gigabytes in order to be safe, right? But try to do it with 3 or with 4. But in my case, I did it 5, right? If you don't have, if you will run out of memory, there will be an error 401. When you see a 401 error in the console here, it means that you need to increase this bar of the memory, right? And that's it. The CPUs and the swap and the Docker disk image, you shouldn't modify that thing. It's just the memory. Okay, now this is just a disclaimer. So I choose 5 gigabytes. So now what I want to do is like this image is like kind of broken, right? Because it doesn't have this module azure.storage.blob, right? So what we are going to do is to fix it. Basically what we are going to do is, it's actually quite, it took me some time, but actually the solution is quite elegant. What I'm going to do is the following. So what we are going to create here is a new Docker file. So we are still in the folder, right, where we have this Docker compose YAML, right? So what I'm going to do is basically in the same folder, I will create a new file. So in this case, I will create with nano docker fix. I will say docker fix. This is like a file that I will create. And this docker fix will have the name of the image, which is actually this Apache Airflow with the tag 2.0.1, and it should be expressed like this. So from Apache Airflow 2.0.1, I will add this in the description if you want, this quickly hack, and then run pip install Apache. So this actually what it's going to do is I am specifying the new version that actually contains these missing libraries, right? I just save it. Yes, just save it, right? The 2 lines are there. And now what we have to do is to insert this image in this particular, how do you say, in this particular container, right? So what we are going to do is docker build, right? And now we are going to look for our file, which is it's the docker fix, right? So these are the 2 lines that we just added here, and now we have to target the component that we have, right? sorry, the image that we have. So here is to, and then we have to, at this point, this dot is actually super important. So yeah, so what we are going to do is these two libraries, we are going to build it and put them inside of this Apache Airflow 2.0.1, right? So I am doing that now. So yeah, so what it did is basically in this image here, so you see now I have here this Apache Airflow. So I had, this was the previous one, right? The previous one is this 872 megabytes, and now I have one that is 885 megabytes. So it has more things inside this one. So actually what I can do now is actually, I mean, you can delete this one because this is like none, right? This is the old one. So I just delete it. I just take the bigger one. Okay, perhaps I will delete it later when I am not using it, right? But anyway, so now we have this this Docker fix here. We inserted in this new image, and don't worry, the image will be taken. The image will be taken from this one, 2.01. So what we are going to do now is actually we are going to do again this Docker compose up Airflow init. So we do it again. And now what is going to happen is we shouldn't have this problem anymore. I just leave it running, that we get the idea. There are no cuts in this video. Because, oh man, I mean, when I am, normally when I am doing these things as a software engineer, I mean, I hate sometimes that some people, they just cut it, they just cut the execution, and then suddenly it works for them like magic, right? And then it's like, what? Like I can, and then I get another error maybe, right? So just to be honest here, I just wanted to show you the entire thing. Even if it's a longer video, you can scroll down or scroll or forward the video in order to have a better, to go to the part that you are interested, right? So now, as you see, now it's creating, and now it finally finishes, but now it finishes correctly, right? It didn't get stuck in this no module name azure.storage.blob, right? So now this process looks cleaner and it just finishes. So now the next step is actually we go to do Docker Compose, which is the next step in the guide, right? Now we do here Docker Compose. And now we are going to start all the services, right? Docker Airflow worker 1. Yeah, so now it's coming. And in the meantime, I will just open like a new incognito window. But I just let it run, this one. It takes quite some seconds, but I mean, should be fine. If you want to see the status of how these things are still like, I mean, if you want to see the status of what is happening in the background, basically what we can do is we can open an additional terminal, and then we can type docker ps, and with docker ps we are actually, it's a little bit small my screen, sorry guys. But here what you can see is like all the Apache Airflows that we are just trying to launch. And here it tells me like which one is healthy. So we have the Redis is healthy, the Postgres database is healthy, the web server is still like starting, and the Docker Flower is still starting. I can do again this Docker PS. And now what we see here is still unhealthy. So still waiting. We are still waiting here. Voila, in a way now it just shows Apache Airflow. So now let's go to see again how this is moving. Docker PS, remember, this is the still unhealthy, still there, still launching. That's fine. We just make this smaller that we can see the entire thing here in one screen. Yeah. Yeah, so Docker PS. So it's still unhealthy. Apparently there are a little bit warnings. There are some warnings there. Yeah, it takes quite a while, but just to be patient, and then you can grab a coffee in the meantime. Okay, let's go to take again another look. Now we get the Docker Flower is healthy. So we are just waiting for the Apache Airflow web server to be healthy, right? So we are back. So we are back. I mean, here what I'm doing again is now everything is healthy, right? I mean, it took like a while. I mean, so now everything is healthy everywhere. So this is actually quite positive. So now that everything is healthy, now actually what you have to do is just go here. I will just add like a new incognito window in my case, because I have other services running on that particular port. So I want just to be really clean. Localhost, yes, and then 8080. Oh, sorry guys, so I just did this localhost here in the incognito window, and now I get this nice welcome interface, welcome page. So now it's Airflow, and now the password is Airflow, and voila, you have up and running. It's taking a little bit. Yeah, we should be like up and running in your machine. You have access already to Apache Airflow, to all the DAGs, right? My computer is quite slow, but just to give you an idea what is like how to run it. So this is the tutorial for the particular version 2.0.1. So it's broken, right? However, this video will become outdated when the version 2.0.2 is released, because apparently they are going to fix these dependencies in the next version. So in the next version, you should just follow these instructions and it should be actually fine for you to run them. But currently now is version 2.01 has this bug to run it from a Docker container based on the documentation. So yeah, I hope you find this useful. Now we are actually in Apache Airflow. Now it's running locally and we are doing everything. We are ready to start to play around with it. So have a nice day.